Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to dive into something pretty disturbing, to be honest. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a fragment, it's incomplete,
Mm.
it's just this snippet of information, and it leaves us
It really
with a
does.
lot more questions than answers,
It does.
but it's really unsettling, especially considering what we know so far.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that it's about a bombing and a
Yes.
death at Trump Towers, no less.
Right.
I mean, that really adds another layer of disturbing
Yeah.
to the whole thing.
It's hard to even wrap your head around it, and
Oh,
the
yeah.
source itself,
Yeah.
it focuses mainly on confirming there's no further threat.
Right. What does that even mean?
Exactly. I mean, what kind of threat?
Yeah.
To whom? Like, that's what we're
Yeah.
trying to do today. Just piece together what we can from this
Yeah.
one statement.
One single fragmented statement.
Yeah.
Which doesn't even hint at a possible motive. I mean, was this a personal attack? Was it some kind of political statement?
Yeah.
Terrorism? I mean,
Why?
we just don't know.
And to make things even stranger,
Yeah.
the source specifically mentions a Tesla.
Right.
The victim was in a Tesla.
Right.
Why that detail?
It almost feels random, doesn't it?
It does.
Unless it's not.
Right.
Unless it's not. It could be a clue. It could be a clue to the bomber's motive,
No.
the method. Was the Tesla itself I mean, was there something about the car that made it,
Right.
vulnerable? Or was it just a coincidence?
All right.
Who
Well,
knows?
let's actually hear the source material itself.
Right.
It's short, but
Yeah.
every word seems pretty loaded. So here it is. Quote,
Okay.
"The bombing and death of the individual inside of the Tesla at Trump Towers had a number of priorities that we've been trying to accomplish over those days. The first one of those priorities was to confirm that there's no further threat." I think we've completed that.
It's chilling. Right.
Yeah, it's
Notice the phrase, a number of priorities.
yeah,
That picked up on that too.
suggest a very deliberate and measured response.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like a pre-existing plan was put into action.
Almost bureaucratic. Right.
Yeah.
It's like handling a PR crisis instead of an actual
It's like
bombing.
this very strange choice of words.
Which makes you wonder, what were the other priorities?
Right.
Besides confirming there's no further threat.
Besides confirming there's no further threat,
Right.
was it damage control?
Hmm.
Was it evidence suppression? I mean, something even darker. We just don't know.
It's hard to say. And I
Yeah.
also picked up on the phrase, over those days.
Oh yeah, that's intriguing too, isn't it?
What was the time frame here?
Right.
Hours. Days.
Hours, days,
Months.
weeks. I mean, this wording suggests an extended period of activity
Yeah.
following the bombing.
So this is
Like that.
taking us
And it's over.
deep into speculation territory, I know.
Right.
But it's hard not to go there, right?
Right. I know.
What if
Yeah.
one of the priorities was to identify and silence potential witnesses?
That's
Just to
awesome.
manipulate the narrative surrounding the event. Like,
I mean, it's definitely
Yeah.
within the realm of possibility.
that's so creepy,
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's also worth considering who the potential targets of this threat are. Was
Yeah.
it a threat to public safety in general?
Yeah.
Or a more specific threat to an individual or institution? We
Well,
just
Dave-
really don't know.
And it's unsettling to think that this event, whatever its true nature,
Right.
might be just one piece of
Yeah.
a much larger hidden puzzle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that uncertainty is probably the most disturbing.
Yes. Aspect of all of this. We're left grappling with this incomplete information,
Yeah.
trying to make sense of a situation where the full picture
Yeah.
is shrouded in darkness.
Tough. So
Yeah.
as we wrap this up,
Yeah.
it's clear we have more questions than answers. But what do you think? How does a fragment like this affect your understanding of events like this? Does it make you more skeptical of official narratives?
Mm-hmm.
More likely to dig deeper and look for connections? That's something to consider as you go about your day.
Questions came up in regards to the positive identification of the suspect in the vehicle. I want to give you a couple of photographs as to what it was that we had some conversation around, because there's some tattoo comparisons that we needed to do. And in those tattoo comparisons, in this particular photograph, you can see a tiger tattoo, and there's a secondary tattoo on the stomach that the wife had told us about. You can see that some of it is burnt, some of it is not burnt, And while the body was still in the vehicle, we were unable to identify those specific tattoos until we were able to remove some of it. Secondarily to that, there's also a surveillance photograph that we obtained of our subject in Colorado wearing that very distinctive brown jacket. You'll see that a little bit later here in some of the photographs that one of the assistant sheriffs is going to talk to you about. There's also a lot of conversation that I hear out there about the fact that the identifications, the credit cards, and the number of things that I provided to you previously did not show up as burnt in the explosion in the vehicle. And so I did think it was important for me to address a couple of those issues so you understand where we're at. That's a photograph of the wallet. It's a leather wallet. Clearly, it's burnt up pretty well. However, that wallet was found in the back seat under some debris in the vehicle, and it contained, you'll see in this photograph, the credit cards, a photograph, and a number of other pieces of identifying information. The military identification that I initially told you about was also located within inches of the wallet. And you'll see much of this stuff does have some burn damage on it. The passport that I described to all of you was found in the back, in the bed of the truck under debris as well, and you'll see a photograph of that in there. I also had mentioned to you that we were going to be doing dental records to identify the subject in the vehicle. The Department of Defense provided those dental records to us. We then forwarded them to the coroner, and the coroner also provided a positive identification for us. Finally, we had also requested DNA from the family, which was provided to us, and it matched to our suspect. We then, of course, had now confirmed fully his identity to you. There has been, again, a tremendous amount of investigative effort that has been conducted now, and I'm going to introduce to you Assistant Sheriff Dory Corrin to go over some of the extensive investigation that has occurred. Dory?
Good afternoon. I'm Assistant Sheriff Dory Corrin. I oversee our Homeland Security and Investigative Services group, which includes our counterterrorism unit that's been working around the clock on this investigation. I just want to briefly share a few updates on some key areas to include the operational activity that led up to this incident, a little bit of information on the post-blast investigation as we know it today, and then finally some of the information that we're discovering most recently about motives and plans to give you some insight on why this individual committed the act that he committed. To begin, just with the operational activity, the sheriff yesterday talked about the route that the suspect took to get to Las Vegas. We used a lot of this information to be able to track down video surveillance footage around different locations, as well as financial records, as well as call data records, as well as looking at the Tesla charging stations to be able to determine exactly which route the individual took, but more importantly, that it was the individual that we've identified, as well as the only individual in the vehicle during the path that he took to Las Vegas. As you'll see here in this video here at one of the charging stations, there's just one example. You'll see our suspect here. He'll exit the vehicle. He'll walk around the vehicle at different times. At one point, you're going to see that he opens the door of the vehicle. He retrieves a coat. He puts that coat on, and you're going to see that at different parts to include the photo that the sheriff talked about just a few minutes ago. We use this video information as well as what I said earlier about the financial records in terms of purchases being made with different credit cards, call data records, a video canvas at multiple locations, trying to use all of that to corroborate that the individual that we've identified is the same individual that drove that Tesla during that route that we've identified to Las Vegas. In addition to that, we also talked about the phones that were recovered. There were 2 phones that we recovered from the vehicle. Both phones were damaged. We are still trying to access the data in one of the phones, but we have been fortunate, and our team, which is second to none, has done a really good job accessing the data in one of the phones that was recovered. You can see the phone here in the vehicle. It's very burnt from the outside. You can see another image here. But we're able to take this phone and be able to extract the data using a variety of different tools. And in that, we've identified a variety of information, but one thing in particular is there was an application in there that the suspect used to take notes. In that application, one of the notes is titled Surveillance Log by the Suspect. It appears to be more of a journal of activity. It dates for about 10 days leading up to the incident, from December 21st to December 31st of this past year. In that surveillance log, or as we would like to call it, a journal, because it's more of a diary of activity that he's conducting, we identify multiple locations that match what we have in the route. We identify activity that we've matched. So, for example, him purchasing firearms, him purchasing camping equipment or other types of equipment that were used in this incident, matched what our data showed in terms of the route and the video surveillance we were recovering along that route. Beyond the operational activity, I want to also get a little bit into the post-blast investigation. So make no mistake, this is a suicide vehicle-borne improvised explosive device, or short, it's a suicide VBID. We know also, as mentioned by the sheriff yesterday, there was a self-inflicted gunshot wound by the suspect. The coroner was very specific in their examination. It was an intraorbital gunshot wound, which essentially means that the suspect put the firearm in his mouth and discharged the gun, and ultimately the round came out to the left side of his head. In addition to that, in terms of our assessment of the post-blast to confirm that he's the only individual involved and the only individual in the vehicle, we did a variety of video and photo comparisons to match the clothing. So if you look here, for example, this is a video in Las Vegas, and you're going to see in a moment here where he parks the Tesla truck. He comes out, and you're going to see some descriptive clothing that matches some of the other video that we've recovered along the route. Please keep in mind, this is a very extensive investigation, so there's a lot of content for us to review and examine. We're just showing examples and samples as we get them. There's more information as we go through it. But in this video, you can see even the distinctive jacket that he is wearing in that vehicle. The other thing that's important is the sheriff mentioned yesterday that Tesla sent to us engineers to come to Las Vegas to help us extract data from the vehicle. Thanks to their support, we were able to extract an SDMI chip from the Tesla vehicle, and Tesla was able to confirm to us using the data from the vehicle that the vehicle was not in full self-driving mode at any time during this incident. Finally, the last category just to touch on is motive, which I know everyone is very eager to try to understand and be able to explain what happened. I'll reiterate what the sheriff said is we still have a large volume of data to go through and a lot of content to go through. As you know, with any one of our devices, there's thousands, if not millions, of videos and photos and documents and web history and all of those things that need to be analyzed. But with that, just as a preview for as we get information, we're trying to be as transparent as possible. There were a couple pieces of content we thought were important to share for now. One is in the note application, he seemed to have two letters. One letter in particular, as you can see here, this is an excerpt from that letter. He says, fellow service members, veterans, and all Americans, time to wake up. We are being led by weak and feckless leadership who only serve to enrich themselves. He goes on to explain a variety of other grievances and issues, some political, some personal, a variety of other things which we will do our best to release very quickly here. But then there's a second letter where there's some more excerpts. This one seems to be dated after the fact in that notes application. And in there, you can read a couple of the excerpts. We are the United States of America, the best country, people to ever exist. But right now, we are terminally ill and headed towards collapse. This was not a terrorist attack. It was a wake-up call. Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. What better way to get my point across than a stunt with fireworks and explosives? Why did I personally do it now? I need to cleanse my mind of the brothers I've lost and relieve myself of the burden of the lives I took. I'd like to just also expand on that and understand that these are just excerpts in there. He does offer additional information that is varying on the spectrum in terms of political grievances, issues about the conflicts elsewhere, not here, domestic issues, societal issues, a variety of other things, including personal challenges as well. We are intending to release those initial letters so people can understand the best they can what the person's thought process was at one point in time. However, please understand there is still a lot more content to go through, and that may change. There may be a lot more information that we recover that explains either more or shows a change in mindset at different times. Just before I turn it over to FBI Special Agent Spencer Evans, I just want to take a note and just mention what the sheriff said, which is our counterterrorism section and all of the people involved in this have been working around the clock 24/7, tirelessly, truly through the night. They are second to none, and we really appreciate everything they're doing. With that, turn it over to the FBI.
Good afternoon. My name is Spencer Evans. I serve as the special agent in charge of the FBI's Las Vegas division. I'd like to express gratitude for everyone that's here today, and especially the partnerships that Sheriff Corrin just highlighted. It's been seamless collaboration between the FBI, ATF, Army, CID, Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. You know, if you walked into one of the command posts and someone's not wearing a uniform, you wouldn't be able to tell who works for which agency, and it's been outstanding collaboration. We do have significant updates that we're sharing with you from an investigative standpoint, but just want to reiterate